6.5 years and 100,000 miles later, 4 continents. And if this van could talk, it wouldn't tell you about the amazing sunsets, the expansive mountain views, or the beautiful oceans. It would tell you about the scratches, the dents, the battle scars, the close calls, and the near disasters that we encountered along the way. We're gonna take a walk around the van today to show you the dents, the scars, what we call patina. But before we do that, let me just give you a brief overview of the van. This is a 2018 Mercedes Sprinter van. We bought it brand new. It is the extended cab, so it's super long. It's a dually built on the 3500 base, 6-cylinder, 4-wheel drive. Now, I self-converted this van into our tiny home on wheels. We have a shower, a toilet, a full kitchen, a full bed, a couch, and a place for the kiddies. If there's one thing that frustrated us about this van from the very start, it was the air conditioning unit. And what would happen is it would just freeze up. Now, over time, we learned how to manage it, that when it was really hot outside, we could turn the air conditioning component off, circulate the air over the evaporator coil. It would thaw out maybe within a 5-minute time period, and then we could kick the AC back on until it froze up again. Well, guess what? When we were down in Nicaragua, the whole thing shut down. And let me tell you, Central America can be really hot. We went into a shop, and unbeknownst to us, to get to the evaporator coil, they had to take the whole entire dash out, and it was a big scary mess to see the dashboard out of this van. But fortunately, the guys found it. There was a leak in the evaporator coil. They were able to replace it with a new one. But lo and behold, when they pulled that out, we could see it was just covered with cat hair. And so what happened is, we have a filter from outside air, but when we use recirculating air, it would pull the air in from inside the van, thus the cat hair and cat dander, and clog it up. Well, since then, underneath the dash, where we have the intake for the recirculating air, we put a filter there and fixed that problem. And now we have an air conditioner that doesn't get clogged with cat hair, but it still intermittently freezes, and one of the biggest pains we've had with this van. Now, if you look closely, right here on the van is a big dent, and you can see my hand right there. We were down in remote South Argentina, the Patagonia, and we got stuck. No cell phone coverage, no cars for miles. But right here, I was just, as we were grinding the wheels, me and Snow trying to get it out, I was just pushing the van and rocking the van. And right there, and I didn't even care, but right there, I dented that part of the van in. And in dramatic fashion, this local Argentina family came by. Now, Snow and I were trying to get the van out for 2 days while we were stranded. This family helped us, and we couldn't get the van unstuck from the deep mud. But a couple from Ukraine came by with a tow strap, and we were able to pull it out. And boy, I gotta tell you, talk about tears of joy, and especially appreciation for these lovely people who sacrificed a whole entire day of their vacation to help us get out of this dire situation. And speaking of getting stuck, when we were in Spain, we had this winch, this big giant winch installed, because we were headed down this journey through West Africa down to South Africa. And we knew from our research that it could be brutal. And a lot of people ask, do we use 4-wheel drive? Yes, we do. And in this particular instance, the winch came in super handy. We were on the safari drive in Namibia, And we were going through and we saw lions, elephants, wild animals, water buffalo. It was amazing. But about 10 minutes after we saw the lions, we got stuck in sugar sand. And the sand was so bad that it would push up on the bottom of the van because the wheels would get stuck and we couldn't get any traction. So I got the winch out and I would hook it around a tree and we would pull the van up 20, 30 feet and we still didn't have the grip or the clearance to get out. And so for an hour and a half, I would go up from tree to tree and we would pull it forward and unhook it and hook it again. Now I gotta tell you, in the moment, it was intense and my main focus was getting Snow, the cats, and the van out of there. But Snow was sitting up there over the steering wheel, just looking out for lions and other predators that we would just seen, terrified that I was gonna get eaten. Now what I will tell you is we were able to pull it up far enough where we eventually got some traction and got going, and I just gunned it and plowed through the sand. And normally in those circumstances, Snow would be like, slow down, slow down. In this instance, she's like, go, go, go. Unfortunately, we made it out and I didn't get eaten by a lion, but what an experience for our van. Now, this next one's a little bit of an embarrassing story for me, but we were down at Ushuaia driving through the town. I think we had just eaten some Alaskan or king crab. I don't think it's Alaskan down there. Patagonian king crab is delicious. But we're coming through town and the road had widened for a left turn lane. So I was kind of pushing over the right to go straight and Snow was kind of yelling at me, hey Curt, watch it, watch it. And I kind of brushed up against a car, a truck, pickup truck that was just parked right there. Now I barely grazed it. You can see we still have the patina right here and it did damage probably the little pickup truck I hit more than our van. And we went in and we told them we had insurance, everything was okay, but our van has a little war mark as a reminder. Now, since I'm telling on myself, I gotta tell on Snow too. And so you see right up here on the attic, just below the awning here, there's a scratch that runs the whole distance of the attic. Well, we were in a Home Depot parking lot and Snow was driving the van and they had these parking spaces that were covered, like with big awnings. And she turned the corner too tight and the post that was sticking out of that awning got stuck on the van. So as she's turning right, we're wedged. We're wedged in the Home Depot parking lot and we couldn't move forward. We couldn't back up. Finally, I got in the seat and just backed up and jammed it and we came off of there. And it didn't do any damage to the hard part of the van, but we do have a beauty mark up there on the attic. And speaking about getting sideswiped, we were in Albania and we had gone up this remote road up into this beautiful mountain, remote camp spot, and we were coming out of there. Now this was technically a 2-lane road, maybe 1.5, as roads in Europe tend to be narrow, but there was bushes and shrubs kind of overgrowing the road, so effectively taking it down to 1 lane. Well, we were coming along through there pretty slow, and we came around this blind corner, and this car was hauling booty. And we could see the whites of his eyeballs as he was locked up, swerving to miss us. How he did not hit us head on, I will never understand. He squirted through a space between the guardrail and the van that was just wide enough his car. But as he fishtailed around, he caught the tail end of the van. Now, we're in Europe and we got out and everyone was safe, but we did have what turned out to be kind of long-term damage to the van. And you know, he was kind of short or whatever with us. And the reality was there wasn't much we could do. We couldn't collect on insurance. And for the time it would have taken, it just wasn't worth dealing with. So we chalked it up as a loss, even though it was totally his fault, a scary situation. We got down the road and continued on with our journey. And just so we make sure we don't leave any parts of the van out, well, we were in Sierra Leone, which is a country in West Africa. Very remote. Think of National Geographic. There was this village, and we had a hard time finding places where we could stay overnight. And we found this place, but the instructions were, once you park, you have to go get permission from the village chief to stay there. Well, we had to cross this dry riverbed, and when we did, the back bottomed out. Of course, we have a long truck, and just ripped the drain of our gray tank out. I picked it up, but we were never able to completely salvage it. There it is, right there. See that, guys? And it ripped the pipe out of the back right there. And look at the van. Tipping, bucking, pulling, fighting. But anyway, that's not it for the undercarriage and for this gray tank. Now the gray tank sits in the spare tire place. And later on in West Africa, at and during the Banyo crossing, we banged up and smashed our air conditioning unit and tore a lot of things up. But we were coming across this river, and all the vehicles that crossed this river, they would pick up water and carry it up the hill on the other side. And it was a muddy, deep rutted mess. And the only thing you could do to get up that hill was, once you got across the river, was just to gun it and go. And the wheels are spinning and the van is bouncing. And this whole mounting thing for the spare tire, which is now where our gray tank is, was just bent and pulled back and contorted. And well, the Banyo crossing did lots of damage to the vehicle, and we'll talk a little bit more about that before this video is over. Oh yeah, and then there was the brakes. And I gotta tell you guys, we had 3 crazy brake stories. The first one, we were headed down a windy switchback trail, super sweet in Brazil. And I mean to tell you, there was no place you could pull off. Fortunately, there was a lot of switchbacks, so we were able to slow down, control our speed a little bit, but I gotta tell you, that was an intense, long, difficult drive of fighting low gear, of tapping the brakes, all the tools in the toolbook, all the tools in the rule book for how to control your speed in situations like this. But by the time we got to the bottom, the brakes were just smoking. And not ironically, at the bottom of the hill, there were loads of brake stores, brake shops, mechanic shops on the side of the road. Now, fortunately, we didn't burn them up that time so bad where we had to replace them just then. They lasted for a little while out of there. But boy, we were coming down the mountains of Peru, and I gotta tell you guys, we had just come from Ecuador, 16,000 feet above sea level, and we came down to sea level. And when I say we came down 16,000 feet to zero, I don't mean it was all at once. And so there was up and down and up and down. And for a whole entire day, we were just grinding on those brakes, pumping them, low gear, slowing down where we could, pulling off to cool and rest them. But by the time we got to the end of that journey, fortunately at the bottom of the mountain, as we're headed over to the coast, the brake light comes on. We hear grinding every time we tap on the brake. The brake pads were cooked. Now, the good news of this story is there was a Mercedes dealership over along the coast that we found They were able to get in, repair the brakes. I think they had to either grind our rotors or I think replace them. I don't remember how that went, but needless to say, we were very fortunate that we weren't stranded, but we torched the brakes, guys. And in Austria, oh my. Now this road had no switchbacks. It was straight down. I'm gonna tell you 3 to 5 miles of just an 12 to 18% incline. No flat spots, no switchbacks to slow down. You start in low gear and it doesn't matter because the momentum catches up with you and you're just going and going. You're tapping the brakes, you're trying to use the engine, and nothing was slowing us down. And by the time we finally got to a place where we could pull off, the brakes were literally on fire. Flames, guys. It was scary. We let them cool down. We waited probably about 30 minutes and I said, Snow, let's give it a try. I turned the van on and put it in drive, and as the van started to roll, we were down a little bit of a decline, I mashed the brakes and they went all the way to the floor. Snow reached over and grabbed the emergency brake. Fortunately, she was thinking, because I was like frozen trying to pump the brakes to get them to stop, and we stopped. Now by this time, we had already made it down most of the hill. We only had a small way to go. We waited probably an hour for the brakes to cool. I put it in first gear and was able to make it down the hill into a mechanic shop where they were able to put new brake pads on and save the day, and we were okay. But man, were those some scary times. And while we're talking about wheels, here's another one for you guys. We were in Namibia, and it was after we did the Banyo crossing, the famous Banyo crossing, the worst driving experience that we ever had. You guys have probably seen the videos. If not, I'll link it right here. You guys got to watch that. But the tires had just, I don't even know how the tires made it, but we were in Namibia, and unbeknownst to us, the inside tire had blown. Fortunately, we were able to make it to the tire shop, and they were able to put the spare tire on and they were able to exchange the spare tire for the flat one. Now they didn't have tires, but we were headed up to our very first African safari to see the lions, the zebras, the giraffes, all the amazing animals that you hope to see while you're in South Africa. So we got there, we were headed there, and all of a sudden Snow's like, do we have a tire going down or something? So I slowed down and looked out my mirror, and it looked like the rear tire was shimmying. So I slowed down to pull off the side of the road. And as I slowed down and almost came to a stop, this tire right here came off and just rolled right past us. We could see it rolling up the road, maybe like a half mile. It just kept going and bouncing and going off into some grass about waist deep. Now, my first instinct was to go back and get the lug nuts, because I figured once we grab the tire, we got to put the lug nuts back on, secure them up so we can get to a shop and get it fixed. While we're dinking around with that, lo and behold, we could not find the tire. We walked around in the grass for hours, and fortunately some people rolled up and helped us. We had no cell signal. They did. They saw us at the shop getting the tire changed, where the mechanic did not properly tighten the lug nuts, and fortunately with their help, the shop came back out, helped us get the van jacked up, get 3 lug nuts on the tire. Now when I say 3, we had to take lug nuts off the other tires to put on this one. And so we had to drive probably 45 minutes to an hour in the dark of night with 3 lug nuts on multiple tires, white knuckling it to get back to the shop. We stayed in the shop parking lot overnight, and the next day we were able to get up. We went to a machine shop and they made us some new lug bolts and some studs, and we got some new lug nuts, and we got back on the road, and well, we went on with our journey. While our van might consider all those superficial flesh wounds, experiences, patina, however you want to describe it, this next one went straight to the heart. We were coming down through the deserts of southern Morocco, Mauritania, and there was this giant desert sandstorm that came up. And for 2 days, we could barely even see the road in front of us. And we made it through into Senegal and into Guinea. Now, we were in some of the most remote parts of Africa, a place where tourists almost never go. A local, authentic, not much electricity in the whole entire town. And as we were pulling out of this town, we had just crossed the border from Senegal into Guinea. And as we were pulling out of this town, the turbo booster blew. Now, we had to get towed back to town. We were stuck there for 10 days, 110-degree weather. It was something that Snow and I reached our breaking point on. We didn't know how we were possibly going to get out of there, but it gave us a rare opportunity to have such an authentic experience with the local people. We were able to get a new turbo booster. Actually, it was a used turbo booster that got us down the road where we could get to a mechanic. Long story short, I had to fly all the way up to France to get a new turbo booster, fly back. It was an incredible adventure just to get the van on the road. We had turbo booster problems the whole of Africa, and that wound to the van really damaged our overall plans to travel around the world. And yeah, our van definitely felt the impacts of that. That was not a minor scratch. Now I can promise you, this van has a lot more stories to tell than just that. But every scratch, every rust spot, every dent, it's all an amazing experience. Unfortunately, this van got us through it all. And if this van could talk, she wouldn't tell you about sunsets or crashing waves. She'd tell you about all the crazy adventures, the wild rides, the near misses, the times we barely made it out, and the good people that came to our rescue. This van's been pretty good to us. She got us through. Thanks for joining us on our Stories from the Road. We'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.